for discussion. It's just so we can know what we're talking about. Okay, it's not, looks like we are live. Christy, can I just get confirmation on that? We're good to go?
You are good to go.
Hi, Christy.
Thank you. Okay, this is a meeting of the Facilities and Services Committee on Monday, March 29th. Is that where we're at? March 29th at 10 a.m.
Yes.
Present are Angie DiBernardo, Erin Grube, Nancy Rogoff, and Rob Jamieson. And today we are continuing to discuss the proposed application process and regulations for temporary displays to be erected in public parks during the months of November and December. All right, so when we last left this meeting at our last episode, we had left with 3 questions. The first was we need to resolve the issue of how we're going to regulate signage, which I would like to have a discussion about. We wanted a legal opinion on that, which we did receive, and I sent that out to everyone. So hopefully we can use that information to inform our discussion today. The second is I've brought some maps of Riverside Park and Triangle Park, which I will share to the screen, just detailing different zones. And I would like for us to try to decide where we will allow anything temporary to be displayed so we can know which zones we're blocking off and which ones we say, okay, fine, you can put something up in these zones. And then we can define what the restrictions are on each of those zones. And my recommendation would be that we send that on to Parks and the administration to hammer out those details once we know where we're going to allow them to put up displays. And then the final thing was the application process or the application itself. So with that as our agenda, how do you guys want to proceed? Does anyone have a preference? Do you want to cover I think the easy thing is going to be the zones and discussing the zones. The harder thing is going to be discussing the signs. Should we go easy first or hard first? Anyone got a preference?
Let's get the zones done.
Zones, okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I've got that capability. If not, Christy can come in and rescue me.
You do have that capability.
Thank you. Okay.
She must think you're
All right,
trustworthy.
I know, exactly. I'm going to put up a viral video. All right, so I'm going to share the screen of, okay, this is the Triangle Park map. Okay, so this just details, I broke this into the bandstand, the hard scaping in the center circle, and then the 2 patches of green on either side at the end of the park. I didn't put a zone. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but I didn't put a zone where the fountain is. Let me know if anyone thinks we can have decoration there. I just figured these are the parts that we really need to decide yes, no on decoration. And I kind of feel like, I guess I've had this, I think we can look at this as just as things that'll be erected, displays that'll be erected, as opposed to just greenery or lights. I don't think we need to, if we're putting just greenery or lights on something, I don't think that would be considered a temporary display that we're allowing to be placed in the park. So I don't know, any discussion on that?
Well, if you don't think that greenery and lights are part of a display, then I don't think we should allow the bandstand to have another item erected there.
Right. So I guess if we're going to say, fine, if someone's going to put greenery and lights on it, that's one thing. But if you're going to put a Santa chair in there, then that's then you're basically putting a chair in there. I guess that's what I'm wondering is there a difference between putting light? I mean, I know in our legal opinion, we did get this statement that lights and greenery on light poles are not really a display, not really erecting a display. That we can say that. So I guess that's why I'm wondering if we can say the same thing with the bandstand. Because I don't think we typically have anything, we don't really want anything permanently placed there for the entire season, right? I mean, is that?
I don't think so.
Who's going to decorate that? And
well, it would be decorated, fine. It can have the lights and the greenery on it, but the question is, we don't want like the sleigh wouldn't go inside the big bandstand. We wouldn't necessarily have a chair. Go ahead.
Do you want to have that open to the public, to anybody who wants to decorate it can sign up to do that?
one thing to consider might being the areas that the village, works with the
Controls.
JCs of decorating. We can
True.
look at those areas as being ones that are part of a standard, are at the village request of, to decorate.
I
and
think
then
that might be
additional open
wise.
areas might be separate. So
I
it's
feel like
not-
that might be wise with Triangle Park being such a small park. And since
Yeah.
we have basically, it's kind of, we don't really have anything unique there. And we have the same display every year. We have a decorated tall evergreen tree, and we have put greenery and lights on the bandstand. So I wonder if maybe we should say that we don't allow, the village controls Triangle Park for the holiday season, and we'll work with so nobody can apply to put in a display there. That will be under the control of the village. How do people feel about that?
I don't think we should offer space in T1 or T3 because T3 is where the big tree goes. And T1 is the bandstand. But that said, in T2, we did have I thought it was successful to have the sleigh in the center, sort of on the circle at the edge of the tree. And then I do feel like we traditionally have seen additional evergreen trees put into T4. So I wouldn't want to necessarily limit that, since it creates that sort of like covey lighted space.
I'm
but
okay with
T1
that.
and T3 are sort of.
Okay, so I'm okay with saying T1 and T3 are reserved for the village. T2 and T4 are available with restrictions, because both of them have heavy restrictions in terms of
Yes.
T2, in my discussions with John, we need to leave a walking path and an ability to snow blow in the case of snow. And T4, we know T3 and T4 both have like a lot of underground irrigation and issues. So staking and things like that become more complicated.
Yes.
So I'm okay with that, to say T1, T3 are not available. T2 and T4, we'll write up a list of restrictions, or we'll have administration and parks decide how you can use these spaces, but the public could apply to put something there. Nancy, what do you think?
If there are that many restrictions and concerns about snow plowing and underground watering and things like that, maybe both of those areas also should be reserved to the village.
That's what I was originally thinking, but personally, I'm okay with leaving those two open with restrictions, because I do think you're right that T2 area is very popular. For Santa, for the sleigh, for something. I can see somebody thinking that's a good space, but it would have to work for the village. So I think that I could see opening that up with restrictions. So that's where I'm at. Erin, where are you hard and fast on that, or where on?
I mean, my sense is that when we allow discretion, because if we say that the village is doing T4 and then we allow the JCs to go there and put in trees, I think we've created a problem for ourselves. And so my sense is, you say we allow in T4, but minimal staking, no more than like whatever, Rob, 6 to 8 feet in height. It's intended for small evergreen displays, and maybe we just say it's intended for small evergreen displays and be very narrow about it, just because we're putting in like a 300-foot tree there. So
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and that's so is there any more discussion on that? I'd like to, I'm just to move this along, I'd like to make a motion that we allow T2 and T4 for decorations with restrictions, and T1 and T3 will be reserved for the village in the months of November and December.
I'd second that.
Okay, let's vote. I say aye. Erin?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Okay, so there we go. So I'll then send this particular map to parks and to administration to figure out what restrictions we need to apply to those zones. And I know that those are touchy zones in terms of there will be restrictions. So, okay. So let's move on to Riverside, which is far more involved. So let me close this screen.
Could I ask one,
yes, of course.
Maybe overarching question?
Sure.
Are we going to do all this first come, first serve, like open application date, like today, like whatever, say?
I believe the application process that's in discussion, but we haven't settled that yet, would be
Okay.
They would apply by June 1st and it would close June 31st. And then all of those applications would be subject to a lottery if there were too many applications. But otherwise, we would basically work with people to try to make sure everyone gets a spot and it doesn't create too much clutter. But after that, it would be on a rolling basis. So say somebody came up with something in October, they could apply as long as there was space available, but they would no longer be subject to the lottery because they're after the application period. Does that make sense or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me stop my screen share. Sorry, I've lost control of my Zoom since I'm in screen share. So here we go, Zoom. Let me see if I can just do it from here. Stop share. Okay, and now I'm going to share. This is the Riverside map. Okay, far more complicated. So I guess with this, I just want to know where we're allowing decoration. So I think that for me, traditionally, it looks like R2 and R3, we've had some decoration in terms of displays put up by people. And then R5 and R8 were meant to be things along the walkway. I'm most comfortable with the idea of taking R4, R6, and R7 kind of off the table as being things that we allow people to put something up in. You know, I understand that we do put that the lights do go on this, what is called this, what is that? The shelter that's in in R6. Again, I don't know whether we need to have people apply to put up lights or if that's just something they work with the village on. I kind of feel like we maybe want to leave the R4, R6, and R7 as like empty space during the November and December, not have something permanently erected there. And I guess R9 as well. R9 I threw in there just because by that point I'd already labeled everything in the park. So I figured I'd put R9 back there too. So, okay, where, comments, discussion?
Nancy, go ahead.
Well,
She has no discussion. So I can keep talking. I can keep talking. So R1 is where the hardscape is. It's my understanding that we don't want anything in R1. So that's going to be off the table.
But we already have the Santa thing.
The mailbox.
The mailbox, but that's not a village thing. So I think we're going to need to leave R1.
Okay.
But this
With
is where we can regulate it to like
And
there'll be heavy
4-foot
restrictions.
height,
And do we have the sleigh there once in a while?
We do, okay.
occasionally.
So we will make R1 then available, but it's again going to have heavy restrictions because R1, my understanding is that surface really can't tolerate a lot of weight, and there's all kinds of issues with that the hardscape there. So
the whole is R1 the whole concrete area or
yeah,
stone?
exactly.
Okay,
Right.
yeah,
And then R2 is, yeah, go ahead.
I don't think we should have anything there. I mean, what if somebody wants to have a concert there or a choir singing or something? I mean, that would be a space
Right.
for that.
So we'll do it with like limitations on space and realizing that we might have to have performances because the Santa's mailbox has always been there traditionally and it's very small.
That's off to the side, isn't it usually? Kind of.
Right, but it would still be kind of in that area. So
Could we say,
Restrictions, you can just add with area restriction,
right.
Can I-
you know.
for restrictions, can we just say they have to be lightweight ground supported things that do not require any sort of staking, and they have to be they have to allow for public gathering in that space. Like they can't impede that, because I think that does allow the ways we've used it in the past, but doesn't sort of invite huge installations at the same time.
I agree. I think Nancy makes a good point about the public concerts and things like that. That's what we want. We want that space to be open for that. It's kind of in the center of town. So the decorations there not only have to be things that won't hurt the surfaces, but also that are very small and limited and wouldn't prohibit people from having some type of performance or gathering in that area.
And
so,
the only And the only reason I want to offer those restrictions is because I agree with Nancy. It needs to stay open, but we do have that mailbox there, and it is such a quintessential sort of
course.
photo of the village. I don't want to take that away either. So I think it gives us a little bit of balance.
Okay. All right. Then R2 is like prime display area. I think that's a great place. The Festival of Trees was very successful when it was there last year. It's apparently very easy to stake things in there. There's nothing underground. That's the area that's bordered by sidewalk on all sides. So I feel like that's a prime area for some type of display. So I feel like obviously we're going to offer that for people to put some type of decoration. And then there's also electricity there. And then R3, the same thing. There's electricity available. And it goes to the end of the parking lot. So I feel like those areas are much more contiguous with the downtown area, but once you start getting past the edge of the parking lot, you start getting into people's backyards. And I guess I don't know whether how much decoration we want to allow people to apply to place for, a 7-week period if it's going to be in people's backyards. So, and again, this is only for the holidays. It's something I try to keep in mind because I don't think we want things there or in these places all year long, but at the holidays we have.
No.
Right, exactly. The holidays we just have decorations. So, and then
But
go ahead.
I have one idea. If somebody comes up with a unique idea, they may use some of these other spots that we like, say 4, 6, and 7, and they want to use something just along the fringe. Like if they wanted to do some kind of decoration along the whole pathway all the way down.
Right.
Something that would not fall within the allowed areas. I would assume that would go to council then for approval, or parks, or add facilities and services.
Yeah, I was thinking R5 and R8. Obviously, my drawing skills are limited, but I was thinking that those would basically be pathways.
Yeah. Okay.
The pathways, because if you want to do like luminaries or like a candy cane walk or something along the walkway, that would be your walkway decoration, right? And I'm assuming we don't want anything in the playground, which is why I didn't put anything there.
Right.
So the playground is off limits.
But keep in mind that we're changing the path this fall, and the path will go straight along the river and not have the bump in. So I would almost.
Should we have this just be pathway?
I wonder if we should make
Excluding
R5 and
playground.
R8 a single long path
could.
situation.
We could. That's a good idea. As long as we reserve in there somehow that they can't have decorations inside the playground equipment or whatever for now.
Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable restriction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So Nancy, how do you feel about that? The pathway part?
Well, the path continues. What will then be the path, right? Is that what
It'll be like a pathway decoration, and that's okay to have a decoration along the pathway with you, or no? If there's somebody could apply to decorate the path.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the path will continue in that open space there, because that's where the path will be.
Right. It'll go
Yes.
right. Exactly. So we'll just make like that one long R5, and then I'll renumber them so that it's basically that's just this big long thing, and then R8 will just be in the very back swampy area, or it's the library steps up to the top. So I don't think. Yeah. Go ahead.
So say somebody wanted to do like a candy cane walk, put a bunch of candy canes all the way down from the R1 area all the way back to the library. It'd be kind of cool. Something
It would
like
be
that
beautiful,
to apply, but that'd be something that we would we wouldn't take to any board then. We would apply it because it would be decoration within the appropriate zones and meeting any restrictions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm inclined to say we have decorations in R1, R2, R3, and then in a pathway zone that's basically R5 and on up to the library, but not in R4, R6, R7, or not to let people apply for those areas unless it's like an exceptional circumstance that they would come to the administration with some unusual thing. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had talked that we would identify locations and additional location requests be considered upon request,
That's in
for lack of a better language.
Right,
So-
that's in the language, so.
Yeah, so I feel like that sort of ticks those boxes, and we can deal with it as it comes. The only question I would have is, they normally do put a tree out there by the skating shelter. Do we want to make that a small individual square and separate it from the rest of our six?
Maybe that's a good idea, right around the shelter where those 3 trees are, just make that its own little thing.
Yeah,
Okay. I can do that.
but a
So I'll
small
extend,
one. Yeah.
right. Also, I'll extend R5 up, and then I'll just make a little R whatever for the skating, the
Yeah,
skating
R8.
shelter and the 3 trees.
You could make it R8.
R8, I can do that. Yeah, I can make that R8. And then we'll just have that as if people apply for that area, but keep the green grass kind of open so that we kind of have a balance of not having too much
Mhm.
stuff. And then also it puts it where there's electricity, so we don't have electric wires like, or we have to erect special things in different places because the electricity is down at R2 and R3.
Right. And there's a way to get power at R6, but you have to like climb on a truck on a ladder to plug into the light
Go
pole
up in
and
the
then you
light
have to
pole.
run it, and
Yeah.
it's super fun.
Okay. Okay, so then I would make a motion that we,
Can I-
go ahead. Yeah, Nancy, please.
I'm still concerned about R1, having that open
Yeah.
like that. Just for the
You just want to
mailbox.
restrict it?
I mean, I can see people, a lot of people having displays that just could sit on the ground and wouldn't need anything
Right.
special. And I think it's
So what if I make that a different zone too?
to fill it up with stuff. And to do that just because of the mailbox. I mean, I agree the mailbox needs a place to sit.
So I'll make another zone there that's just where the mailbox sits, and it's just this tiny little zone, and then we'll just keep the stone area open, and we'll just have that say nobody can put something there. I mean, the village can always put something because it's our property, but and nobody can apply to us to put something
I
on that
just,
stone.
yeah, I mean, I think it
That's
just
fine.
opens up the
Is that fine?
potential for too much stuff to be in there.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll redo the map for that. I'll redo to create a separate zone around the skating shelter and the 3 trees. And then I'll put a small, tiny zone for the mailbox that will basically only accommodate a structure of that size that will just go in, right.
And where are we putting the sleigh? Over at Triangle and
The
not?
sleigh is up to the merchants. My guess is it'll stay in Triangle, but the merchant committee will, I guess, decide where they want to place it. But it would either be there, or my guess was it would apply to go into R2 or R3 and be on grass then if it wasn't going to be on the hardscape at Triangle Park. So that's my
What if they
guess.
want to put it back on the hardscape at R1, like where it's been in the past?
Where it was the first year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they may, but I guess we're making that decision now. Are we going to allow that or not? I mean, like I said, the village could always place something somewhere. If the village said we want to place something there and it was ours, we can do that. But an outside organization couldn't place something there. So
Did
that's
we
the
have
decision.
Did we have any vandalism of the sleigh this year
We-
in the Triangle?
We did not. We did, however, have vandalism at R1 and some wonderful videos of people riding the sleigh across the hardscape after a night at the bars and things like that. So it may be safer in Triangle.
Yeah,
So
because it's not getting the late night post restaurant
right.
crew.
I think
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's more open and closer to the police station and the
Right.
cars
The cars all around it.
that area.
Right.
Yeah,
So
some-
I think it did well in Triangle Park, as long as it's not a burden to the service department. I think that's something we need to talk to John about to make sure that it's that they didn't have issues we don't know about with it being in Triangle Park. But if we've tried it in 2 locations, I think it was more successful in Triangle Park.
Agreed.
So that
Rob?
makes, yeah.
Rob, is there any issue with snow removal with the thing there?
No, we can work around it.
Okay.
Let's just bowl on ahead with it in the Triangle and just
Okay.
we'll deal with if we need to deal with it somewhere else later. But we really had issues the first year. I mean, they took all the bolts out of it at one point. So like,
But
Good
we-
times. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we just left that open and available for applications. The Triangle Park that I think.
We did. So we can apply so the merchant committee can apply to put the sleigh there because the merchant committee is going to control the sleigh. So, I guess that's where they would have put it. So, I guess that's what we're hoping, right? That it will go, in that location. I mean, the point is to try to make this fair so that people can, not that we have like too many decorations, but to make sure that everybody has the same shot at putting something in different places in the park. So I think if that's an acceptable location, some of these places will only speak to certain items. So like, a small spot for the mailbox, not many things are going to fit there. if you say it's like this little tiny spot between these benches, so.
Well, and I think we have a clear government interest in terms of keeping the front of the park open and accessible for people
agree.
to gather and to flow and to drink
Well,
hot cocoa and whatever it is. And so I think that's our clear interest here. So identifying a
agree.
small space, keeping open space, I think it all does work.
I agree. I think that one of the reasons to do the zones is to block off areas where we will not allow decoration. And
Yeah.
then to restrict decorations in the areas where we feel that they need more restrictions. So I think that's
Correct.
so first of all, I think we're just trying to decide as our committee, what do we want? Where do we think decorations are appropriate? And then figure out what the restrictions are going to be on those zones. And I guess we've decided that circle, that hardscape is not appropriate for permanent decoration because it will block the public gathering. So we're
Yep.
going to take that off the table. We're going to have a spot for the mailbox as a separate zone that people can apply to. And then R2 and R3, as well as the pathway, are appropriate for decorations.
Correct.
Correct.
And we need to be
And the
specific.
skating shelter area.
And
And we need to be,
And R9, yeah, it's for the pathway up. Yeah, okay.
in R1, we need to be clear that you're not allowed to put anything into our planter beds.
About what? What?
We can't put anything into the planter beds. It has to
Oh,
be
right.
that R1, like, that we need to write that down as part
Right.
of these restrictions.
Yeah, so we'll send, now that we have an idea of what the zones are actually gonna look like and which ones are off limits according to us, we'll send it to Parks and Administration and have them get the restrictions set for those zones so that we know like what, they know, like John's the one who can tell us, you can't stay here, you can't,
Could we ask the administration to put down restrictions and then send it to, take it to Parks so that they can vet it and then?
Sure.
Well, I think we all need to work on those. I mean, we have some obviously, but I think Parks will come up with some thoughts.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes these are hard by committee to do. And so, because obviously we have a lot of discussion around this. So I feel like the administration needs to take the first crack at it since they deal with the infrastructure space, like the infrastructure of the space on a regular basis.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a whack at a motion. I would like to make a motion that the map presented be redrawn to include a small zone directly off the sidewalk on Main Street at the front of the park. That R1, which would just be the hardscape, be off limits to decoration. That R2, R3, R5, R8, and R9 be available for decoration. And that a new zone be created for the skating shelter and 3 trees, and that be available for decoration. Whereas R4, R6, and R7 be off limits for decoration. And that we refer this to administration for details on restrictions within the zones.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nancy or?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So then we'll move it along in that direction. I guess we'll get some more input from administration on those areas. All right, so the last park, I don't really have a map for, so we can just discuss. I mean, I have a picture, but is Bell Street Park, which in discussion with the administration, we just think is one zone. Like Bell Street Park is just, it's just Bell Street Park. There's no real zones to it. Will we allow decoration in Bell Street Park? I think with restriction, it would be fine. It's a very limited space and there's some, areas where you could put something in areas you couldn't, but I'm open for basically saying Bell Street Park as a single zone is available for decoration.
Correct. I'm with you.
Nancy, do you agree or no?
Yes, I do agree, but by single zone,
It's just, right. Bell Street Park is just small. So it's just one, like if you applied, you would say, I want to put something in Bell Street Park and the restrictions will apply to the whole area. Like it's just, there's nothing unique about any one space in Bell Street Park that we have to block off.
Is it just for one person or group? Or
Most likely, if we're going to make it so that we're trying to make it so that there's not too much decoration in one area. So I think there'll be a limit on the total amount of decoration in an area. But so yeah.
I have an idea on that. I mean, there are possibility in some of these zones because of their size that someone would only want to be putting in one item. So
Right.
if they wanted to put up one sort of decoration in one of the triangle zones, triangle park zones, or maybe at one end of the R5 zone in, in Riverside. And I think it would be good to allow administration to be able to determine if we received several applications after reviewing the what they're proposing, if we're able to accommodate those and not be overcrowded. So if you had 2 or 3 different items that were all small, like somebody wanted to put, hey, I want to do one, thing like this. Like if you wanted to put some sort of a decoration at the beginning of R5 and then someone else wanted to do a candy cane walk going back, you could definitely accommodate that and it wouldn't be overbearing and it would accommodate that. So I think we need a little bit of discretion in being able to make a good judgment. Like Bell Street, if someone were to put something real small in one of the grassy areas and someone wanted to do something small on the other side, then I think we can accommodate that. But if someone wanted to take over the whole space, or we don't want competing interests. But I think we can do that when we look at what's being, what the application states and how extensive it is. That'd be one suggestion I would have.
I agree. I think a lot of things will overlap. I think there's a number of scenarios where you can see 2 very different groups putting in very different items and having them come to a cohesive sort of experience.
Sure.
The only other thing that first of all, I need to say, Rob, it's hysterical that they're washing your windows right now, because it took me a second.
I see that.
Why is there someone standing at his window? But now that I've distracted everybody else.
You didn't have to say, Rob, look out, there's someone behind you. Okay.
I was like, but that's anyway, sorry. In terms of restrictions, I do think we probably should, I don't know, never mind. I'm not going to say it. That's fine. Go ahead.
And if you have any comments about restrictions, feel free to reach out to me directly and we'll incorporate that in our planning efforts for that.
Okay, so we'll send this off to administration with these zones and we will receive back restrictions that are proposed for us to see how they work. Will that work? Will that work as okay.
And if anyone has any ideas, please let me know.
Sure, we will. And this will go through the process. So Nancy, does that work for you? That they'll come back to us with the restrictions they're proposing and then we'll take a look then, or no?
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Can I suggest that we also consider just not allowing decorations that require, how do I say it? Like fans. Like if you have to run a fan in order to have your decoration be visible, then I don't know that that's the thing that we should be doing, because I think it creates a lot of noise.
Well, I think a fan is interesting. I'm thinking about
like an inflatable. Are you talking about an inflatable?
We're talking about inflatables. I just think it's a tough discussion to have, since we're about to, I don't know, host some inflatables starting on Thursday.
Yeah.
So,
it is.
Okay,
but a week is different than 2 months.
Yeah, notwithstanding
Well, that's true.
those items that will be installed.
Yes, displayed. Okay.
Right. So I think that just maybe overall, we need to take a look at electricity use.
Yep.
Generally, okay.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know where it all is, but where's the electricity? Where are the, available plug-in spots? What can you put into that? What can you use? I mean, for one thing, the village just foots the bill on that, for one thing.
Right.
And the particular spots where something can be plugged in are I'm assuming they're limited.
Right.
Rob knows
They
what they are.
Right.
And I think we need to make restrictions and limits based on that, rather than fans and things like that
Yeah, that's fair.
Controversial, or how do you decide this or that or the other thing? We're having it attached to some hard and fast rule location, whatever.
And I've always been a proponent of having an electric charge, just a plug-in fee for.
Well, that's a different issue, but I mean, you don't want extension cords all over the place. Is my
agreed. Right. Agreed.
The way you would hook up and where those hookups are is definitely administration oriented decision.
It is, but I think our policy element is also that we are going to ask the administration to determine and list a reasonable and fair charge for electricity, because I don't know that the taxpayer should foot the bill for everybody's display.
Well, then I think
there's things that.
But again, the difficulty there is, I mean, I don't, maybe but I don't know how many different entities could use the electricity at one particular site. And that being the case, you're
Right.
going to divide it
That's
equally. I
administration.
mean, I don't know. It's something we can think about, certainly.
Right.
But I personally would need a lot more information on.
I know that's on the radar of administration because when I met with Rob and John to discuss, how is the map going to look? That was something that John brought up. So I'm hoping that that'll come back to us in the restrictions having to do with electric usage or electric, they know what we see. And so, I think we can get a second chance to look at this when we see what the administration thinks on that issue. So,
I mean, that's on the radar for electricity use throughout the year. I mean, any kind of display.
Right. And that's
anything
not just, right. And let's just handle the winter. Yeah. Let's just handle the winter first. Because, that's when we actually have a bunch of this. I don't want us to get bogged down in what's happening the rest of the year because it will make it very hard to get the winter set up because, it makes it more complicated.
Yeah, I guess my worry is that we're at the beginning of April, and we need to open these applications up like soon, which means we sort of need to pass this in April. It needs to get through parks and get to council. We've got a lot of work. So from an efficiency standpoint, I do think, I think we at least need to be on the same page and because we create policy, right? Like we're not writing an application. We're not designing a paper application.
Right.
We create the policy and then the administration gets to figure out what the piece of paper looks like.
Right.
And we need their input for some of these restrictions because they manage the infrastructure. But from a policy standpoint, I do think we should give clear direction about the charge for electricity. We've identified locations near electric spaces, that did not sound correct, but near spaces that have access to electricity.
Outlets, yes. Power.
Yes, with outlets.
Mhm.
I don't, I spent 10 years planning events and it's really not a big deal to say, we're going to charge you $25 for each plugin. So, and you need to tell us how many plugins you're going to put on your application. And if you don't know, then you got to know what you're putting in or we can't really help you. So that's the responsibility of the applying group, in my opinion. So to give Rob do you want me to make a motion here since I'm creating a policy recommendation?
That we have if you want, you can handle it now if you want. If you want to make a motion that we have a charge for plugin, is that what you're?
That's all I would do. Yeah. I'm not even going to give a number. I'm going to ask Rob to figure out what they think would be appropriate. Rob's like, oh my gosh, more.
For the season?
$25. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to throw that out there?
Oh, I would move to ask the administration to determine a charge for each plugin, a cost for each plugin.
Second. All in favor. Let's see. Who's Aaron?
I'm going to vote aye in the shocking turn of events.
Aye.
I'm going to say aye. And I do think that this will come back to us when we review the restrictions. So if you charge $600 for a plugin, then
I'm not going to support that.
Yeah, we can discuss it then.
Yes.
So, okay.
And I still think that we need to know where the access to electricity points are.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Rob will do that. Yeah.
Right. I know,
Okay.
and then, administration can make a suggestion for how much and we
Sure.
can go too low, too high, or
Right.
why.
Right. Exactly.
Why did you decide on
Right.
this number of dollars? I mean, I'm sure he'll have some, Rob
Right.
will have some
I'm-
sort of, thought process behind it and what he thinks is reasonable. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the more complicated topic because I know there are pros and cons, which is signs.
Angie, this is Christy. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Oh, I had a hand raised from the audience. Do you want to take questions now or at the end of the meeting?
Let me see. I'm okay if it's on the topic of the map. Then then probably best to do it now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Ann DeKonig. Okay, yes, please, and pop in.
Okay. I'm inviting you to the conversation. If you want to unmute and start your camera, please.
So Ann DeKonig, who is the chairperson of our Parks Commission, is joining the conversation with a question.
It does take a moment to connect.
Okay.
We'll give her another moment.
Mhm.
If she doesn't connect Oh, there she is.
Oh, there she is. Hello, Anne. You're muted.
Muted still.
Maybe frozen or
There we
just
go.
haven't had coffee.
I just wanted to ask if the
Mhm.
village knows how much electricity the J.C.'s use with their Christmas decorations,
No, I mean,
just out of
we've
curiosity.
never looked that up.
Okay, that's all I wanted to ask.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to signs.
Did Angie disappear?
Technical error. Hold on a moment.
Did you kick her out of the meeting, Christy?
I did. You're back, Angie. Thank you. Sometimes when you're managing Zoom, the screen moves
See how it
and you do
is?
things you don't mean
Yes,
to.
Christy.
It's
Like,
okay.
oh,
We still love you.
Angie's gone now. Okay, that's fine. All right. So let's move on to signs. This is a difficult conversation. I know that we all feel that there are pros and cons to this issue. We did get a legal opinion delivered to us on how First Amendment and signs in public parks work. And I believe what I would like to put forward for our discussion is that we can restrict size and location of signs, but not content. So we can either say there will be no signs, or we can say there will be signs, they will be this big and they will be in this location. But what's on them is not going to be up to us. So I think we have to have a discussion on whether we want to allow them, and if we want to allow them, what types of restrictions we want to put just on that size and location. And I believe we could probably restrict number as well, but that's it. But it can't have to do with content. So
Well,
yeah.
Oh.
Go ahead, Nancy.
oh, no, go on it. I thought you were finished.
I was going to say, I guess I'm inclined to say no signage just to make it simple. But if we were to encourage any signage, I was leaning towards saying, look, you can have one sign per display and it would be small, like, one of these, little tiny placards like you have in a museum, and it would be located close to the ground so that we don't have visual clutter. Basically I'd say, I would say no signs, or if we're going to do signs, they would be heavily, heavily restricted, and made to be small and limited and not so noticeable. So I guess I need to know where everyone else is on this, because it seems like this is a decision in which direction we want to go. And there are negatives to both sides. I'm sympathetic to the fact that we have a lot of not-for-profits and they want to give credit to their sponsors, and they want people to know that they put these things in the park, but we don't want advertising. We don't want a bunch of, we don't want our parks to be used as a public forum over the holidays for, who knows what, but anyway, I just, that's where I am on it. And so I guess I'm leaning towards saying no signs, or if we must have signs, they would be heavily restricted and small and limited in number and located close to the ground.
And
Who else?
Yeah,
Let's jump in there.
I'm in favor, definitely in favor of no signs.
Okay.
I think it's definitely simpler.
Okay.
To the extent that we can restrict the size and location, if we
Mhm.
had to, if that was the consensus, that would be, as long as that size was really small. I don't know how small you can restrict the signs to. I mean, that would be another legal
Question for the lawyer.
restriction.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is 1 foot by 2 feet. Is that too small? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
So depending on the answer, because let's say, for example, we had to allow something that was the size of, let's say, the typical political signs people
Right.
put out on the.
Yeah.
I think that's too big.
I do too. I think
Personally.
that's too large.
That would be too big and open to too much clutter.
Right.
Which again is why I would prefer to have no signs at all. It just, nobody advertises, no signs, no nothing. Certainly people have available their Facebook page, Instagram,
True.
whatever else all that stuff is
True.
for advertising, for saying, go look at my tree in the park,
Right. True.
whatever. They wanted to set.
I agree. I agree. So I
totally avoid that.
yeah. So yeah, so I guess that's where I am on the signs thing. I don't know, Erin, where are you on this? Yeah, Erin's like, I don't want to talk about it. So
No, okay, so here's where I'm at.
Here's where we are.
I personally think we should allow one small, maybe like 6x8 or like one like half sheet of paper size,
Right.
like what 8.5 by 11 becomes what? Something and a half, 8.5 by something or other. And I think that they should be no taller than 12 inches above the ground. I personally would like to see us label it because I think it's important to let the people who are spending the energy to decorate the village have some sort of like identifier. I think it does help when people have questions about where something came from and why something's there. I think it helps us as public officials support our constituents in understanding what that thing is.
Mhm.
I also think another option, and don't hate me when I say this, is there are things like waterproof paper out there. I could also see a scenario where the village says we will print one sign with the name of the applying organization on it, say this is presented by so-and-so, and we print it on paper and put it in
We can't do that.
just as in a laminated thing, and then we put it out. It doesn't say we can't do that.
I think the legal opinion said we can't do that because I specifically asked if we could do that.
It said we can require uniform sign structure materials. So we could say it has to be. Right.
Oh, you want to make the materials limiting so that other people can't have it?
Well, I
don't
mean,
know.
I would, anyway,
Again,
I think there's an option. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm in a different space than you guys. I just think we should give people credit for the work that they're.
Okay, so let me show you a picture if I can, just because, and I promise I'm not trying to promo these flowers, but so do you see this? This is this flower display in New York, but do you see the size of the sign that they have out front there? It's very small, and I feel like those types of signs that are like a museum display sign are not so bad. They're if you basically have something small and close to the ground, you could limit things in that way and just say, if you want to have a sign. Now, I think we need to find out. So I'm going to stop my screen shares now that I've showed you that. But I think that, again, we need to find out if the rules we put on signs for the holidays will apply to the entire year or not. Because if we put that in this for November, December and say no signs, does that limit us from having signs year round or not? The question is whether that discussion gets broadened to that or not.
So I think with the signs, if we can limit it to, let's say 8.5 by 11, it looked like that's what that was.
Yeah, it's like a little thing.
If we can limit it to that size and no higher than maybe 2 feet off the ground or whatever. So if we can limit it to that, that would be fine. I think that more than likely we might have to apply that throughout the year. But I think that we also should restrict the sign to only one of them per display.
Right.
So for instance, somebody couldn't decide in the summer to put up a sign, or anytime, even in the winter. They couldn't decide to just put up 2 or 3 random signs here and there. It could only be one sign and have it specifically linked to the display.
Right. Like if you have a candy cane walk.
Advertise something unless you were there having your event right now, and here's the sign for my event, my tree in this case. And then when my time period is over, the sign goes away and my tree goes away, or my whatever my display is.
I'm okay with that. I think that might be a nice middle ground, is to say, look, you can have signs, but they're limited in number, 1 per display. They're limited in size, and then the location. And so, go ahead, Erin.
Instead of saying display, can we say 1 per section? So that it's clear that if you're in a section, that it's only in once in that section, because otherwise
1 per zone. Because what I don't, imagine the theoretical candy cane walk. This candy cane sponsored by so-and-so, this candy cane
Correct.
sponsored by so-and-so. Like, we don't want that.
One per zone,
One thing
yeah.
at the beginning, it says the candy cane walk is presented by so-and-so is fine with me, but I don't want a sign on every candy cane.
Right. And when
know,
you said
so-
display, I heard like one per candy cane, not like one for the
Oh, no.
entire
Okay. I
collective.
think one per zone,
Yeah.
or per application, or, so,
Oh, application's an option.
It would have to be one per application because that one zone, I forget which number it was. it
right,
had a dozen trees in it or half.
right,
a dozen anyway.
exactly. So
Put in-
one per application, and then they have to be limited in size and close to the ground. So we're gonna go for,
And they can only be up as long as the
right,
Permit.
they come down with the display,
display
Right.
is, yeah.
right? That's what I think I think I can live with that. How, okay? Rob, how do you, like, what, does that sound okay to you or no?
Yeah, I want to make sure it's an easy policy we can follow and it's,
Right,
makes sense and it's just a, a simple description on the application of what's allowed and to make sure that it's done. I mean, I'm not going to make signs for anybody. I'm not going to do that.
oh, no, yeah.
No,
no,
I-
People can
On
do that.
special
themselves.
waterproof paper, okay, that's good.
I think I think this is something we ought to type up individually and specifically ask the law director.
I agree, I think you're right, because it's a
This
very
is what we
sticky
wanna
area.
do, 1, 2, 3, 4, and is this okay?
Okay, I think you're right. That's a smart choice because this is all very, as you know, having gone through all this with the sign code and planning and zoning, a lot of law, a lot of stuff going on. So,
It is,
yes.
it is.
So,
Why don't you get me your thoughts and I'll send them all to Dale, just because I
sounds
don't
good.
want to have like a bunch of people all.
that
doing
sounds
the same
good.
thing, so I
It
can-
wouldn't be a bunch of, it would just be the chair of the committee asking.
That's
And
fine.
the chair's already asked
Mhm.
Mhm.
for an opinion.
We received an opinion from him, so I can just send back our specific policy proposal but since he'll be writing it up anyway, and he'll have to decide if that's legal or not and let us know if this is what we're doing will work for the year. But I agree. And we do need to know how this affects us year round, because I think this discussion right now has been limited to the November and December displays. So if
And-
it does affect us year round, I think we just need to know that.
Yeah,
And I'd also offer this, if it got out of, if there's loopholes that we haven't, because I'm sure there's loopholes, right? There's always loopholes. And if there's loopholes and it gets out of control, I would be fine
Yeah.
at that point saying we're just not going to allow signs. I would just like to try and say, we want to do this, we want to help everybody, but like people do need to follow the
Right,
guidelines so that we're all on the same page and we can keep doing it.
Agree. I'm with you on that.
And I guess
Okay,
I
so-
also think it's generally a question, Angie, to
Mhm.
ask the law director. Can this whole structure that we're putting in place
Right.
for the holiday season, November through maybe mid-January to get everything down,
It's true.
can that be limited to that time period
Right.
and not extend beyond that time limit?
I will ask him that. Okay, so that's,
You know,
Yeah.
are we putting ourselves in a bad position with some of this stuff?
if we have rules for temporary displays that are over the holiday season, will that apply to temporary displays year round or not?
Other
Right.
places, other times,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I will get that done, and Rob, I'll run it through you, so we only have one query to the law director and make sure that we,
Yeah.
and then if I know we have all of our questions in one place, we'll send it on and get an opinion from him.
Okay.
All right, so, okay, last issue is the application. And I guess I don't really have anything to show you at this. I guess my further thoughts on the application were that we discussed a bunch of things that we think should be on the application, but I think maybe we should be making the policy and then letting the administration sort out what the application looks like. Rob, is that
Yeah,
me hoisting
that's
work on
fine.
you, or is that better for you?
That's
Okay, I
fine.
know that obviously you guys are going to be the ones processing it. So if we tell you these are the things that have to be in place, you
Yep.
guys can sort out the application. Nancy, do you think you'd like that or you don't like that?
And we'll present it back,
Unhappy.
we'll bring it back to committee.
Oh, you present it back to us.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll handle that the same way we do with the restrictions of the zones. I'll get you a list of, so let's take this moment now. If there are things that we want, we discussed this at the last meeting, so we have a list, but if there's anything new that we think should be in this application, let's
Can,
bring it up now so that.
can
or-
you read it or can you screen share it so we can see where we're
I
at?
have it. Let me see if I can bring it up.
Angie, will you redraw the zone map?
Yes, I'll redraw that and send it out to the committee and to the administration, just so you guys can see it at that point. It'll come back to us again with the restrictions as well. So basically, let's hope that we can schedule another meeting where we will see the map with the restrictions in place, the application, and we'll have our sign policy either approved or not approved. And so those, hopefully at that point, we'll be able to say, okay, we're ready to go, and be able to send it off to make it into some type of legislation.
Okay.
Am I missing any steps in that or no?
That's
At
good.
that? Okay, so I can't readily pull up this this list, Erin. It was a list generated by you, so so you should be familiar with this list. But we did discuss it at the last meeting. I will send a collective email to administration with all that information, so you'll know what will be coming back to us at our next meeting. And like Rob says, anyone can reach out at any point with, if we have comments to administration individually. Right. And then we can meet at the next meeting and discuss what we ended up with. So, yeah, Nancy?
I'd like to see, did that list come around?
I think it did. I was just trying to pull it out. I'll see if I can find it. If I can pull it up now, I'll just send it to you. I'll post it as a screen share. I just didn't want to take time to look through this. Why I should have had this
You don't
up.
have to look through it, but I'd like to look through it.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, here. Okay. I think
I don't
okay,
know.
so I will screen share. Okay, let me go back to screen share here. Share screen. Let me see. Okay. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Shall we go through it? Wait, I haven't shared it yet. Share. There. Okay. Shall we go through this? Can you guys see that now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Applications due June 1st. Administration shall respond no later than July
Yeah, we don't
1st,
have to
after
go
July
through
1st.
We don't have to go through it. I just want
Okay.
to be able to read it.
Okay, so this is, so I'll send it out, but this is the list. So it's now in our meeting if anybody wants to see it. We went through this at the last meeting and had discussion. So I will send this with any notes that resulted from our last meeting to administration. Because some of this stuff we decided, oh, that's maybe overkill. So I'll send those notes on to Rob. And then they can use our discussions and the map to kind of put together some kind of basic application, and then we'll be able to look at that the next meeting. All right, so I'll stop the screen share and I'll send that out to everyone so you have it.
For what it's worth, I'd rather see us get this in legislative format versus an application format. I don't personally really
agree.
care what the paper piece looks like. I think we need to focus on the policy and the legislative elements and let the administration
I agree.
develop the application once it's done. I don't want them to do something and then have us make changes, and it feels like it's how we make mistakes. So let's work on policy and then do the application some other day. That's my take.
Okay, so let's then, as a way of giving instruction to the administration, plan for at our next meeting, we will have the map with all the changes and the restrictions set so that we know we can vote. This is what we're doing.
Yep.
2, we'll have the sign policy set and know that that's what we're doing. That's again pending a legal decision. And 3, we will know what we're requiring via the application. So this list will have pared down to these things or we're requiring, and then we can hand all that to administration and they can, but then Dale can write the policy. So if it says in the policy, you are required to have insurance, then that something will be on the application. So basically we'll know what things we want to require in the policy, correct? And then the details Rob can work out.
I will make all that.
Okay. Okay, so so that's what I'll plan for our next meeting. Look, it's 10:59. I'm doing the 1-hour meetings, guys.
I love it.
All right, so so let's set a date for our next meeting. Can we meet? I think, when is our next council meeting, Erin?
April 12th.
April 12th.
April 12th. Is that too far away? Probably we should probably meet before that. I was going to do it before the meeting, but April 12th is a little far for.
Well, Parks meets on April 7th.
Okay, so let's do it after Parks, but before council. So let's see, so April,
do we want it on the council agenda for the 12th?
Well, you're
That's
not
the
gonna,
question. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
if you have the Parks meeting on the 7th, that's our deadline to get things ready for the meeting on the
Right.
following.
And we
Yeah,
won't
I
have a
mean, we
chance to
could-
draft anything by then. So,
So we're not going to have this in front of council until the 20
No, there's
something
no
or other.
rush.
26th
There's
is the next.
Well, there is a rush. I mean, we're like coming up on when we want to open this, but
okay, so let's plan on, are you guys okay to meet, April? Well, I guess we could, what if we met on April 8th or 9th? So immediately after we get Parks comments, would either one of those work for you guys or no?
This is Christy. I'm completely flexible during the day. I do have a Thursday evening meeting. Other than that,
Okay.
I'm flexible.
I cannot do 1 o'clock on this. Oh wait, we're talking about the 8th or 9th, sorry. I can
can't-
probably be pretty flexible.
Okay, so I prefer the 8th because I'm getting my second vaccination on the 9th. So I plan on being sick, but also later well, but,
Later not.
so the 8th works better for me, Thursday. Is morning working for people or no? Because morning's
Maybe
good. So
morning,
can we do 10 o'clock on the 8th and we'll get comments from Parks the day before and we'll have had the administration just to kind of move this along. Maybe then we can get it to Dale by the end of the week so that he can start working on it if we have if we know what we want to do at that point, so we can start getting some legislation drafted. Is that good? The 10 o'clock on the 8th?
At 10? Okay, yeah, because I really
Yeah.
can't meet much later than that because I have something in the afternoon. So we'd have to,
Okay, so
10
it's
is
10 to
fine.
11. 10 is okay? Okay, we can meet
Yeah.
earlier if you want. Okay.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay,
Angie, if you would,
Um,
just shoot me an email. This is Christy.
I will.
with The agenda items, and then I'll get that
I will.
prepared and out.
Okay, I will get that to you right after this meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have anything else for facilities and services that you guys need to bring up?
And we have a member of the public with a hand raised.
Okay,
Andy
awesome.
Colleen. And I'm inviting you to the conversation. If you could unmute and start your camera, please. Again, it takes a moment.
Of course.
And you're still muted.
Bless you, Nancy.
There you
There.
go.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hi, Ann.
I just wanted to say April 2nd, Nancy's when we're doing the cleanup of the village gardens. And also, what are you going to be bringing to parks? What is your question?
The zones of the park that are being decided as to what can, where we can have decorations in November and December. So we
Okay, so will
decided
you send me the,
we'll send you the map and we'll send you, the administration's going to work out what they think our restrictions should be on zones. And so this would be for your recommendations from parks in any kind of restrictions or things we may not have thought of in these different zones where we will allow temporary decorations during the November to December months.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to make
So,
sure I
and
had
then-
that straight.
Oh, absolutely. Because then what we're hoping is to get this all sorted out so we can have legislation drafted for after that meeting. So, we want administration comments and parks comments and, we'll tell you what we're thinking. So if you guys can get, chime in, like Rob said, you guys are going to have a different input than they have and that we all have. So we can just get this right, so.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Good. No problem. Thank you. Okay. All right. Any other comments from the committee? No? All right. So I will get the information done that I need to get done and sent to you guys. Christy, I'll send you an agenda and we will meet again on April 8th at 10 a.m. With that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting of facilities and services. Everyone have a good day, okay?
Thank
Bye.
you.
11:04. Thank you.